Hello everybody. So quick video today after a day of traveling. Sorry about the missed video yesterday. Let's talk about MSTR. MSTR stock, this is the 2025 final buy. Saylor just tweeted back to Orange. So we know he's not going to be stacking fiat. He's not stacking dollars. He's stacking Bitcoin tomorrow. And so he tweeted this morning US time, obviously evening now where I'm at. But anyways, what does that mean? Back to Orange. Yeah, right. So he's going to buy Bitcoin. And what did we know? We know, so of course last week he only bought cash, only cash last week. So that did not help the yield. We did not generate an additional Bitcoin yield last week. But 2 weeks ago, on December 15, he announced that he was at a 24.9% yield to date, 24.9% Bitcoin yield. So the reconfirmed guidance in Q3 for Q4, the reconfirmed guidance at the last earnings calls was 25%. He only needs to achieve 0.1 to achieve the 2025 guidance, which was, let's remember, it was updated 3 times. That guidance was updated to the upside 3 times, and on the last quarter, it did not update it. So my take is he's going to achieve the yearly guidance for 2025, despite the nastiest bear market, that bear market we could have ever anticipated or imagined. I mean, it was absolutely out of hand. And he's still achieving a 25% yield. Because, yeah, I think at 24.9% 2 weeks ago, I think with a buy tomorrow that is going to announce, he will have achieved that 25% yield. I'm going to assume we break that. That's a big deal because not only did you achieve the FY25 guidance, but you achieved the updated many times FY 2025 guidance. Let's talk about Bitcoin. So like I said, we celebrate, of course, because as we get into a new year in 2026, MSTR has survived the epic 2025 DAT crash. I see a lot of former skeptics on X all over praising MSTR, saying MSTR looks interesting at these levels. No joking, no kidding. Does it look interesting at these levels? Who are you kidding? Yeah, people claiming that, talking about how the MSTR crowd is as devout to saylor as, say, the Tesla crowd is devout to Elon Musk. That's a good thing in my book, that a lot of people love saylor, just like a lot of people have been loving Tesla for so many years. There's a lot of shareholder support for the company. There's a lot of people who understand this company. And if it's any evidence, whenever you see a MSTR video, it has so many views because people believe in the company. Now, quickly talking about the performance year to date, of course, it is awful. It has been an epic crash. There's no other way to say it. Forgive the French language, Google, but, I have no choice. That's the way it is. 47%, minus 47% year to date. And actually, if you look at Bitcoin itself, Bitcoin was only down 6% year to date. Noteworthy in euro, I first had it in euro, I switched it up in euro. Bitcoin is down 17% year to date, believe it or not. Something to say about the dollar here, huh? But anyways, we achieve a 25% yield. Tomorrow, we're going to announce a 25% yield, even though we dropped 6%, but we dropped 47% of the stock price. What do I mean by that? If we achieve an over 25% yield next year, we increase the bag by 50%, while the stock drops by 50%. In my book, that is roughly the same thing. We break through the near 50% loss in the stock price. And of course, if we assume that going forward, the stock is going to trade at least at 1 MNAV, that 21% Bitcoin yield should be the yield of the stock going forward. If we assume we're going to keep earning a 25% yield year after year, and we keep trading at 1 or 107, we have a price to NAV equal year after year, the Bitcoin yield should equal the MNAV, the stock price, the rise in the stock price at a constant MNAV should equal the Bitcoin yield. That is the magic of this. That is kind of a beautiful thing about this. And, keep that in mind. Another way to think about it is that if saylor keeps earning 25%, 25%, 25%, assume 3 times saylor earns 25%, what's going to happen to MNAV? Is MNAV going to drop to a 0.3? I don't think so. I think MNAV is going to stay at least at a 1 or above a 1. I think 1.07 is way too cheap for MNAV. I think the market will normalize and the MNAV will go back up to a more reasonable level. I've always said the reasonable level for a high performance digital asset treasury company, like, top of their field, like either it's Solana, Ethereum, or Bitcoin, but top of their field, long track record, you should have an MNAV similar to the bank's price to book. And a good bank price to book is what? 1.6 to 1.8. So, 1.07, we're way too cheap on MNAV. The market is so bearish. Everything is so bearish. The market is bearish on crypto. It's bearish on Bitcoin. And of course, it's even more bearish on digital asset treasury companies. On strategy becomes the poster child for this crash. Saylor becomes the poster child for this crash because, he's one of the most outspoken Bitcoin advocates. Let's conclude talking about Bitcoin a little bit. So, is Bitcoin actually one other way to look at Bitcoin is like Bitcoin is like a 1-year stable coin. Like if you average it out over a 1-year period, Bitcoin was what? On average, like 105. Bitcoin traded on average, just a tad above 100 for more than a year. And if you look at that, okay, now we are kind of in a bearish phase at 87. We dropped all the way down to 81, actually, at one point, 83 multiple times. So we dropped quite a bit. We're back at 87. We've been behaving like a stable coin in the short term, 3 weeks worth of stable coin price action. But if you look over the long, well, first of all, that stable coin price action of 3 weeks during Liberation Day, that lasted, close to 2 months. Not quite, but like 7 weeks it lasted. So this could last another few more weeks. This bearish sentiment at 87K could last another few more weeks. But if you take the longer view, you can see we've been roughly flat for a year. Except we had excitement between Liberation Day and 10/10. So essentially, Bitcoin was bound by two USA tariff-related events. But if you look, this is where I think it gets uncanny. If you compare the price of Bitcoin to the Fear and Greed Index, I invite you to look at these lines, to look at these charts, and compare this chart to the chart of Bitcoin. It's as though the price of Bitcoin was entirely related to the crypto fear and greed. The price is down, and so everybody's fearful and nobody cares about Bitcoin. When the price was up in October and September, October, of course, is when we hit peak Bitcoin at 126K. Then sentiment was all of the way up. It tracks so closely the fear and greed index. We are in peak fear right now. We're still at the depth of the fear. This can't last forever. People can't stay fearful forever. Yes, they're bullish on Bitcoin right now. Yes, there's a little bit of a squeeze on Bitcoin right now. And a lot of people are excited about the brand new shiny things, literally, which is Bitcoin and gold. But, if you look at that chart, in my view, it's overbought. It's exaggerated. Yes, I do understand that silver is usually a byproduct of mining other components like copper. But the truth is the price of copper is going up. So the price of copper is going up. We're going to mine more copper and we're going to have more silver, right? If you look at precious metals, what's happening with precious metals going up in value? As they go up in value, the more they increase in value, the more you're going to have people who go look for silver, who go look for gold, and who mine such thing. And even if silver is a byproduct, which is like this big debate right now, yes, silver is a byproduct, okay, but copper is also going up. So if copper keeps going up, if all of the metals, all of the commodities keep going up, we're going to have more of that byproduct too. That's my point. And so is this a classic case, of course, when we have fear and greed at a 29? We are in extreme fear for like a week, like almost a week, more than a week, we're in extreme fear. Is this a situation of what Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger used to say all the time, buy when others are fearful? I buy all the time. I anticipate to be a net buyer of assets, stocks, Bitcoin for the next, I guess, at least 30 years, I guess. So to me, I always buy. I'm always buying. Whenever I have cash, I'm buying. But is this an especially good time to buy, given that everybody else is fearful? From what I read on X, from the sentiment I see everywhere, people are still recovering from 10/10. People still have not recovered from 1010 and the mistakes that the oracles did. Remember 1010, you had some bad actors, some bad oracles who broadcasted an artificially low price, who led to crazy liquidations of people doing perps, of people being over-leveraged. A lot of people have exited crypto, many of which will not come back. But those people, mostly retail investors who have exited crypto, they will be replaced by institutions. A lot of institutions are going to get into crypto, and they're already doing that. And you have multiple investment advisors, RA firms, registered advisor firms, as they're called, recommending up to 4% allocation in Bitcoin. I think we are nearing the end of the pain. Keep in mind, this is the end of a year. This is tax loss harvesting season. Tax loss harvesting season. That means we have 3 more days of selling, of people who are harvesting their losses. And sure enough, there's people who probably bought at 120, but Bitcoin at 120, but MSTR at 350, who are tax loss harvesting right now and getting out of investment. But that should change into the new year. That should change next year. US tax code, of course, you have to sell and you have to wait 30 days. So maybe February is when we see some people buying back in February, right? And we may also get another government shutdown in February, which seems likely at this point. So if there's another shutdown in January, remember the last shutdown. The last shutdown in October, that was pretty bullish for Bitcoin. When government shuts down for some reason, stocks seem to be doing well. So that could be a catalyst. I don't know what else to say. Enjoy your holiday. Enjoy the end of the year. Over the short term, this is nothing. Over the short term, we won't remember this slump. This is not the first strategy slump. This is not the first Bitcoin slump that I covered on this channel. You may remember the crash of 2022. You may remember in other, different sectors, different areas. You may remember the mess of 2023. Before my channel, you may remember the infamous March and April 2020. Markets go through valleys of despair. They last months. They can last 6 months. They can last a year sometimes. But in my view, when the underlying asset is sound, they don't last forever. And that's why I'm more confident than ever in MSTR, even though the price action, not going to lie, it's been very disappointing. But I think we're seeing a bottom right now. That's what I think. So anyways, this was not investment advice. This was not financial advice. This is only entertainment. Please please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. And I am going to sleep because I've been traveling a lot this past 24 hours. So you have a wonderful, wonderful night. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you tomorrow.